Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl.
Hello. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl. We are back at it. We have the trio here. I'm Jamie, and I have my besties, Jessica and Corlin, with me. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Listen, guys, we're gonna try something here. It's called the First Minute Fast. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. You don't need to think about it. There's no prep. They don't know this question. I'm going to ask it and just, throw it out, whatever comes out on your mind. Okay.
So I should physically take off my thinking cap right now. Correct. Take it off.
Do you physically have one on? Because all I see is headphones.
Metaphorically take off my...
Thank you. Yeah. Take it off. Get it? Take it off. Okay. When people come to you for help, what do they usually want help with? Jessica, I think I want to start with you on this one.
Oh, okay, fine.
Oh, no.
I don't have a thinking cap at all, so as we know. So, no, that's an easy one. When people come to me, so I talk a lot about building a brand, and somehow I've built this brand that people come to me and ask for career help, specifically networking and building a brand. So that's what people usually come to me for, and I just love helping people. So I do a lot of coaching and mentoring when it comes to networking and building a brand.
Nice.
I think when people come to me for help, I think professionally, I've been working pretty hard on networking a little bit in my area of influence, which is how to get people to volunteer and get engaged more. So I've had a little bit of a windfall of people reaching out to me and asking how they can get their teams more involved, get them thinking about outreach, thinking outside of what they're doing. And so that's been some really fun conversations with some like-minded business owners and people who have a similar role that I do within their own companies. Jamie, how about you?
So firstly, most people ask me just how to cook things. That's probably the one question. But no, and I maybe have mentioned this before. And plant things. I can just grow. I grow things. No, and I've mentioned this before. Just things you can eat, vegetables. And I think I mentioned this one time before, maybe. But my daughter, when she was young, she used to say, when someone would ask her what I did for a living, she'd say, "Oh, my mom just drives around and makes friends all day." But truthfully, being out in the community all the time and meeting new people and meeting all the people, just not only just my in my field, but just people in general, I get a question a lot of hey, who should I call for this? Hey, this is going on in my life. Who should I go to? So it's kind of like that referral is kind of the help that they're asking for. I have a young lady in town here that I talk to really regularly, and she's always texting me okay, where should I go for this? And how do I do this? And what do I do over here? So I would say that would be mine.
Jamie, when you live in a small town, when you say stuff like, I have a friend in town.
I definitely live in a very small town. Minneapolis for 10 years, near Charlotte, North Carolina for 5 years. This town is real small. So today, we are going to talk about something that, and thank you guys for sharing. You're awesome. I love you guys. But today we're going to talk about something that is really, really important. We've been talking about it for a couple of weeks individually, and it's a subject that I think probably, I think needs quite a bit of attention and talks. So I want to read something that I came across recently. It starts by saying stigma and self and help seeking. Stigma surrounding mental health issues and seeking help for suicidal thoughts can be a significant barrier for women. Research shows that women may face unique societal expectations and pressures that discourage open discussions about mental health, making it crucial to create safe spaces for women to seek help without judgment. Another portion of that said, while men die by suicide at a higher rate than women in most countries, women are more likely to attempt suicide. So there were a couple of facts that we've talked about and that we've looked into. And I want to, maybe this is a little bit different, but I want to ask Jessica, because this is something that came up. And we were talking a little bit about just mental health in general, checking in with ourselves. I know we've done a wellness check in the past. So Jessica, can you start us off and just maybe tell your story of why this is important to you, important in general, and then also why this topic was brought up?
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, it was actually the holiday weekend, and coming back into the work week, I got a call first thing on Tuesday morning. And the call was that one of the guys on my sales team, his wife just called and said he had suddenly died. And so I did a little research, kind of just Googling, see if there was a news report or whatever. And the report basically said that he was last seen on Sunday leaving his house, no wallet, no phone, with a gun. So at this point, it's pure speculation, but there's a very high likelihood that he took his life. And I think that's now 2 weeks later, kind of what we've come to. But it really just hit really close to home. This guy was 46 years old. He had 2 daughters and a son, married for 17 years. Such a positive guy, great sales guy. I mean, when things were like really just shitty at work, he was the guy that would just like put the positive spin on everything. And it really threw me back to think that this guy, and what was crazy about this is not even a week before this happened, my partner at work could not make it to a meeting. And he says, I'm going to need you to lead this meeting for me. My best friend for 35 years took his life last night, and I'm on the phone with his wife right now. I show up to the meeting, and this guy was the first one on the meeting. And he says, where's Tim? And I said, please keep Tim and his family and his best friend. He just got a call, and I told him the story. And all I keep thinking about is the look on his face when I told him that story. And I said, I just feel so heavy right now for his wife and his kids. And I said, I just want to pray for him. And he didn't say anything, but I keep thinking back to the look on his face. And we were just sitting there until everybody came into the meeting. So, here's where it really started to really, I just got myself in a bad place that I had to pray my way out of it, because as I shared this and asked other people, keep him in your prayers, his family, and I'm sharing this with other people that are close with me, 3 women in the next few days after that shared with me that they had, some of them multiple, one woman 4 suicide attempts. And so it just made me just start praying for this. Ever since that day, I've just been praying, what can I do? What can I do for other people? It's made me like reach out to people that are happy, that are really happy, because we're looking at people that maybe don't seem too happy, but check on your happy friends, your happy family, because through it all, every single one of these people that shared what they shared with me seemed to be really happy people. So I just thought this is an important topic that we need to talk about a little more and, share. And I just thought, well, this is a great topic. It wasn't on the calendar, but I think it's something we need to talk about.
Well, and I like the fact that this is something timely for you. This is something that is in your life right now and is important enough that you want to bring it up and talk about it, because just like the stats say, a lot of people don't talk about it. Right. So, I'm glad we're able to.
Were you close to this guy? Were you close to him, Jess?
So he was actually a newer guy on our team. He just started on our team like within months. And he was an external hire. And one of the reasons why he was really interested in coming is because he worked in a dealership for years. And you guys know dealership life is like direct buy life, the hours, the weekends, the time away from your family. So he talked a lot about really being grateful. So, but to answer your question, no, he was on my team and, we spent time together, but he was a newer employee on our team.
I think sometimes when this happens, that the natural question for a lot of people is what happened? Was there signs? Did something come up? Was he acting different? Were they saying something? Were they, subconsciously reaching out for help? Like, what was and a lot of times the answer is just no. I haven't had a lot of experience with that situation myself, but I feel like that's the commonality, that sometimes, especially if you're not paying attention, people don't know until it's too late.
Yeah. And I know, Cor, you had talked a little bit about some of your experiences kind of with the mental health topic. Do you have more that you want to kind of bring up that
it doesn't, I would say
same lines?
Yeah, I think that I haven't had a similar story in that, but I remember one of the things that the three of us had talked about is that, even though maybe we haven't had suicidal thoughts, but sometimes you just get really sad and depressed or frustrated, and it shows up in your life in a lot of different ways. One of the things that I had mentioned in a couple episodes back, that I had a really hard thing that I went through when my son was born. My husband we like to call it a heart event, but he had a heart attack. But the events leading up to that story were pretty intense for me. You think about it. So rewind back, I was a new mom. I have a 3-month-old baby. And I remember this as clear as day. This, the way that the day played out, is that my husband had come home and he was kind of stretching kind of weird. And he just said that his body felt stiff. And I'm sitting there and I am not paying attention. I am tired. I was actively nursing my child. So I have a baby hanging off my body, feeding. My house was a disaster. It was probably a normal mom day, but it was just, there was a lot going on, I feel like, for just take care of an infant. And my husband kept on telling, he's like, babe, my arm hurts. And I don't know, like my back is kind of hurting. And I just look at him and I just said, why don't go lay down, go take a nap. I don't know how you want me to help. So I was completely insensitive and not wanting to help at all. And so we ended up going on a walk with a buddy of his. He comes back and it's nighttime at this point. He said, I'm just going to go lay down. Maybe it'll just sleep it off. So we go to bed. It's probably 1:00 in the morning. He wakes me up, and again, sleeping mom wakes me up, and he said, I don't know what's happening. I gotta go to the doctor. And preface this is that, sometimes as men sometimes do kind of overplay their sickness a little bit. I feel like in my humble opinion. So I'm like, okay. So I get out of bed and I'm not a happy camper either. I say to him, okay, I'll go wake up our son. I'm going to drive you to the hospital, like being super still not sympathetic. And I drive him to the hospital. I drop him off at the ER door and I go park, and I've got our son, a 3-month-old baby, in his car seat, and we walk in. He tells the nurse how he's feeling. They put him in a wheelchair emergency room right to the back. He lays down. They put him on an EKG machine, and the nurse comes in about 2 seconds into reading the report or whatever it was. The timeline is a little fuzzy, but the nurse leans over to him and she looks him in the eye, and she said, "Sir, you're having a heart attack." And I just remember sitting down in my chair holding my son in his car seat, and I just lost it, because through that whole time while they're talking to us and telling, I'm just replaying every single event in that whole last few hours of me completely blowing him off, not paying attention, not being sympathetic, not being there. And so, fast forward, he ended up getting that situation taken care of. He started seeing a doctor, and he's healthy now. He's great. But, so probably like 2-3 months ago, our life changed. He was changed. He was a longtime user has ADD. So he was on Adderall for the majority of his life, which helps with a lot of different things, but focus and productivity. He had to quit that absolutely cold turkey. We both were new parents. And so we're in this space and time where we are experiencing this huge health crisis. We have a new baby, and everything is completely different. I'm still working. He's still trying to work. And it was really hard. And everybody that was coming to our house is, how's Harrison? How's he doing? How's it going? And everyone was asking, as they should. They shouldn't ask me how I'm doing. But it wasn't until my sister-in-law comes over, and this is probably 2-3 months after the fact, and she sits down with me and she just looks me in the eye, and she looks at me and she says, how are you doing in all of this? And it was the first time anybody had really asked me how I was doing and really wanted to listen. And I just remember kind of unloading on her. I think I definitely started crying, but I just told her it's hard. It was really hard coming out of the situation and not feeling like I could ask for help or say anything was wrong, because it was his issue and his problem. And I'm just trying to be there as a support person. So me trying to raise a white flag and saying, I'm not doing okay. One, is not in my nature necessarily, but two, it seemed a little selfish in the moment. And so I think that one of the things that I felt like as we're talking about this is, as a big takeaway, you see this when you travel, in the airlines, they say, if you see something, say something, and I think that for my sister-in-law, for me, I think that she saw something or felt something that she needed to speak up and just ask the question. And it was that little bit of a permission to say, hey, I'm here for you and I want to listen, gave me the ability to share what really was happening. And it was really helpful.
That's a great point, Cor, that you think about. First of all, I think what you said made sense of course, people are asking about him. Like this,
Mm-hmm.
He had a heart attack. He almost died. This is like serious. And being in that situation where, what about you? So I think that's a whole thing in itself. When you're dealing with someone else, it's really not about you, but what about you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I that's honestly, I don't want to get ahead, but that would probably be my takeaway from that story is like, I personally feel like I need to keep that in mind I've got loved ones who are battling cancer and things like that right now, where it's like, man, have I checked in on their spouse lately? Have I checked in on their mom lately? Have I checked in on their kids lately? Instead of just that person, because it's everybody who's all, when something like that happens, when there's a medical situation that happens, I mean, it really does impact every single person, right? I personally, I think I kind of forget that. I kind of forget to check in with the caregivers, right? I was wondering this as you were as you were talking through what, so with these two experiences that you guys have both brought up, what, if anything, did this change in terms of your thoughts or actions? Like, what about this story or what about this situation has made a change for you, or has it made a change for you? Like, and maybe how you think about the situation or what your actions might be if you could go back and say, well, like Cor, you just kind of said, it's, how are you? Is there something that you would do differently if you could kind of do it over? Or is there something that you think differently now, having been through that sort of, that situation, that experience?
I think that rewinding back, just being open with how I'm feeling and not trying to be superwoman, and that I feel like I'm unbreakable or don't need help. I think that that's probably one of my faults, is that I don't ask for help very much. And so, especially with that situation, that it was hard to ask for help. And also, I feel like I felt if I asked for help, or if I was sharing, or I felt like I was complaining about the situation, that I was being selfish. And I don't think taking care of yourself so you can take care of somebody else is being selfish. It's like, again, not to keep making these airline references, but they always say, put the mask on. Put your mask on first. I've been traveling a little bit. I think I've got airlines on my mind.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Put your own mask on first before you help the person next to you, or whatever.
But there's a lot of truth to that.
Corlin, do you think that, now thinking back, were you suffering from depression, if you had to name it? Do you think that's what was happening?
Maybe. I think that if you look at the whole scheme, or everything that was happening during that time, they talk about postpartum with moms going back. This was also during, if you remember back in my story, this was when we're going through this huge transition professionally. So I wasn't excited to go back to work because I knew that I was needing to find another place. I didn't know what to do. My husband, his entire life, his personality, it changed. I've met many people since that happened, men specifically, that have had that. And there's something that clicks and my husband, fantastic youth pastor, educator, loves hanging out with kids and teens, and he was the absolute invincible one. I will jump off of anything. I will climb up anything. And I feel that this point in his life made him a little breakable, and made him just the ability to, maybe I'm not invincible. And I think that was a hard thing to swallow for all of us, and finding a new normal. And there wasn't really, looking back, there wasn't a lot of help at all. It's take these meds, do this exercise, eat this food. There wasn't, how are you feeling, or how are you handling this?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, Jamie, you mentioned this stigma piece, and I think that's something too that I wanted to touch on, because I don't know if it's a woman thing. I know for me, there's a culture thing. I know in the community that I grew up in, there was this saying, what happens in this house stays in this house. So you did not go around telling people how you feel. And therapists, that was not, that's not what we do. And I encourage people, I do not know what I would do without my therapist. So for me, it's a proactive approach. And that's what the last thing I want to touch on is, listen, I may have never, and that was another thing that was eye-opening. I did not realize how common suicidal thoughts were. This is ignorance on my part. I never, ever, I started doing research. I would have never imagined that is something that is common, because I can't relate to that piece, but I can relate to being in very dark places in my life. And so when I think about that now, I have a very proactive approach. And that's what I want to really just encourage people to do is don't wait for something to happen to take you to a dark place. Form habits. Every day when I get up, as soon as I open my eyes, I pray. I don't know what your beliefs are, and I don't care what you do. Pray, meditate, walk, whatever you want to call it. I just think that we need to do something, because even without having a husband with health issues, without having, going through a divorce and all domestic, all these things that are like crazy, just normal life is hard. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's hard. And
and it kind of goes back to that. You don't know what people are going through. Like, you literally don't know you could meet any random person on the street, in a store, and in a business setting and whatever. You have no idea what's going on behind the scenes, Yeah.
So I would just encourage people to have a proactive approach. And if you do find yourself in a place, it's not a sign of weakness to say, hey, I'd like to talk to someone. Just talk to someone. Have someone that you trust that you can talk to. Just say, hey, here's where what I'm feeling, and I don't quite know how to deal with it. That's what we have to be brave enough to do, is just speak up and ask for help. And I think that's hard for some strong, independent women like us, because we look at that as, like Corlin said, selfish. Like, I got a lot of people that I look out for. And sometimes we forget we have to look out for ourselves too, because that's how we're still here, to look out for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of my takeaway as well. Like, personally, I went through some things in my past where I went to see a counselor. I was thinking, of just us talking this week about being in a sales role where you're constantly rejected. And so, we always took it upon ourselves to read books and to, kind of work on that positive attitude and continually remind ourselves, and this is a sales setting, but it's a numbers game. You're going to get this many no's to get this many yeses. And that's just the way that you kind of deal with that. And personally, later in life, I was in a situation where I was in a relationship, and my significant other's son went through a cancer battle, and it was really hard. And it was just like you said, Corlin, a lot of people, they kind of forget about the caregiver a little bit sometimes. But when I went to see a counselor, my two oldest daughters were in the same grade. They were both graduating high school at the same time. And I didn't know how to take it. I was like, if I'm not a mom, what the heck am I? If my kids are moving out and I don't know what to do with my life, like, I don't know what my role is. It completely was my identity. And so anyway, started to see a counselor. And one of the things, and this is probably dumbing it down a lot, but I just felt like, this person listened to everything that I said and then picked out things that they heard that I didn't realize I was saying, and then essentially repeated it back to me. Well, here's what you've said. You've said this phrase 4 times in the last half an hour. And my gosh, it was so helpful. It was so, I came out of that, and I maybe only saw her 5 or 6 times, so it wasn't a really lengthy thing, but I came out of that just having so much more clarity. And I just feel like what you said, Jessica, it's like you have to, one, ask for help, but then you also have to just be open enough and courageous enough to recognize, hey, things don't feel good right now. I need to figure this out.
Well, there is a significant amount of vulnerability in that too. Mm-hmm. Just being open to share, whether it's with somebody that you know or you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
And it's, and
Jamie,
it's,
I know that you, no, I was just going to say you reminded me of that time, and I remember both of you are reminding me of things that I forgot, but I remember when these things were happening, and like, how did you? And hopefully you don't mind me sharing. I mean, this kid passed away. How did you get from that place to, I don't know, do you go back to normal, or how did you get from that place back to the other side?
Sorry, you cut out just a little bit. Are you asking me how, like, once through the,
No, I was
How did
saying
how
that-
did you get back?
my faith? I mean, that's, I've said this before, you guys know this, but I don't think I could have really gotten through most of what I've gotten through in my life if it weren't for my faith, and just knowing that God put me here on this earth for a certain reason, and just having that faith and that hope and that trust that if it is a negative thing that happens in my life, I learned some lessons from it. If it's a positive thing, I learned some lessons from it. So I hope that answers that question.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I would agree with
And-
that though too. I mean, I remember coming out of that, I started going to a Bible study, and ironically, we were studying the book of Acts, and I'm not trying to get into a Bible study with this this message, but I remember it was around that time. It was the first time that I had ever prayed for help from the Holy Spirit, and man, did did he show up, you know, and it was very, very not on my own will that I came out of it. It was definitely the power of God working in my life and in our family's life too, to bring us out of that. And it was long and hard, but we got through.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did. Hey girls, so
Amen, sisters.
I'm so glad. So girls, we are just a couple minutes over time. I did want to mention, just like last week, you know, we had talked a little bit about this, but please follow us on our Facebook page or Instagram. The YouTube videos are great. We're able to upload a video of us doing the podcast. So if you want to watch that on YouTube, we're there as well. Is there anything else that you two ladies would like to add in closing?
No, I'm good. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this. And, you know, I just hope that everyone's okay. And, hey, we're always here. If you want to talk about anything, just let us know.
Awesome.
And don't be afraid. Yeah, don't be afraid. If you see something, say something.
Love it. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you guys.
Next time.